Hi folks, it's RBB here with another short tutorial on Photoshop. Today we're going to cover layers. This one may actually run a minute or two over 5 minutes, but I'm still going to set a timer to keep me under control because otherwise I'll ramble on 4 hours. So today, yes, we're going to talk about layers. Now I've set up a couple things ahead of time to save me some time, including bringing this image in. Now I got this image from a website called Pexels, Pexels.com. I'm not sponsored by Pexels or anything, I just like them. And Pexels is a website that when you go to Pexels, you can search for any image you want. Like I searched for Bluebird. It gives me lots of Bluebird options. I want this beauty right here. If I click on it, I can download it for free. Now, if you find that you use images from here, it does give you an option to send some money and love to the photographer and artist, and that's just good karma. So I would recommend doing that. Okay, shut that down. So I got this image of Somewhereville from Pexels, and I'm going to use this for our demonstration. So why are layers so important? We'll get to that in just a second. I do want to tell you that the very first thing that I always do when I start a Photoshop file is one of the first things to do to work non-destructively is to make a duplicate of your background original image. I could accidentally mess this up, save a change, delete something, and it may be the only digital copy in existence. So I like to duplicate the background for that reason, also just in case I need a clean copy. So to do that, when you have your image open, I click on that layer, okay, the layer of the background image. It probably says background on your new one. I right click and say duplicate layer. Now when you do, that will bring up a dialog box saying, what do you want to call it? Just background copy, layer copy, whatever is fine. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. And it will make an exact duplicate of my original just in case I mess up this first one. Now, if I close their eye, they're going to look exactly the same because they are. It's an exact duplicate. So this bottom one I want to keep protected. I'm going to poke it in the eye so it's invisible, and I'm going to click the lock, which is right up here, so that I can't screw up that layer. And it's just there sort of as insurance. So this is like we're brand new. I've got my background copy and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and start my timer to make my long story short. Too late. Okay, so here's my background copy, and I don't want to draw directly on an image, because if I do, if I take this background image, which is active, and I draw on it, that's like, you know, when your grandmother used to like write people's names on photos, and you're like, great, thanks. Now I've got Sharpie all over the photo. I have ruined this image because I can't, later on, I can't undo this. But right now, I can. Okay, so our favorite tool in Photoshop is Control-Z or Command-Z on a Mac, and that will undo a step. But if I'm not sure, maybe I do want a heart, I'm going to put it on its own layer. So I'm going to click on the plus icon down here, and it's popped up as layer 4. And I'm going to double click on the word layer 4, and I know I'm going to put a heart there, so I labeled it heart. Because when you have layer 3, layer 5, layer 72, that's not very helpful. So I have my heart layer. Now on this layer, making sure that it's active, I can draw this heart on here. And if everyone in the world decides it's the best thing ever, great. If somebody says, I hate that heart, get rid of it, I can simply poke it in the eye, all right, to make it not visible. Or I can say I'm never going to use it, and I can grab that layer and hit the trash can icon and delete it forever. Okay, it is less destructive to just poke it in the eye in case I change my mind later, but now that's gone. Okay, great. Okay, so I picked this image because it was easy to separate into chunks to do some of the work I do, which would be like to recolor and to change some of these windows. Like this is an odd arrangement of windows. It almost looks like a bad Photoshop. So I went ahead of time, and I made these individual layers of color. I masked out these pieces of the image. All right, I masked these out, which we'll talk about in another video, but it helps me to very quickly select chunks of the image. But I don't want to see this masking nonsense, and it's taking up a lot of my stack right here. So another great thing you can do with layers is group them together. So these masks, which I only need occasionally, you know, it's taking up a stack, and I may have 20 or 30. So I'm going to click the first one, shift click the bottom one to select them all, and then click on the folder icon next to the new layer icon, and it will put them in a group, which I've already done here. And like a layer, I just double clicked on the word that said group 1 and called it masks. Now, if I need them, I can toggle open that folder and here they are. But when I don't need them, I can turn off that whole set all at once and then just have my project going. If I need them again at any point, there they are. Okay, so putting things in folders is a great way to keep our stuff organized in layers as well. So when we make a new layer, you may have a reason to separate this building from another building or this building from the background. Like, I don't know what this, I guess it's a building roof or something over there. But let's say I want something between this front row of buildings and this back row of buildings. So to do that, I would use one of my selection tools, which we'll cover in another video, and I would select this whole front section and copy and paste that. When I copy and paste it, which would look like this, it would have what's called marching ants around it. When I have the marching ants around what I want, I can copy, Control or Command C, and Controlling Command V as in Victor, and it will paste that in its own new layer, okay? I don't want to do that, so I already did that down here. So what I have here on this layer 2, this is, I'm going to click on layer 2 and I'm going to say duplicated front. Now this is for my own work. I almost always wind up mistyping things there, but I don't care. It's my own, I know what I mean. Diplocated. So this is the duplicated front buildings. So when I turn its eyeball on, it's not going to look any different because think about it, it's a sandwich. It's this exact photo over this photo. And to see it, if I turn off the background one, you're going to see a checkerboard show up here, boop, which is the universal sign for transparent. So this duplicated front row of houses is sitting on top of my original background image, which has the whole scene. So I've made like a layer sandwich. Now, why did I do that? Because I might want to put something between the front layer and a background layer. If I wanted to put something in one of these windows, I would have a copy of the window. I would duplicate it, sort of like pull it off like a Post-it note, put a picture of whatever I want in that window, and then I'd put that picture back on top. There you go. It's 5 minutes, but don't worry, I'm almost done. We would put the window back over top and we would sandwich an item between there. So it's a very useful Photoshop skill. The other reason is what I did, and you saw the little guy at the beginning. Let's say we got our place is being invaded by this very vicious creature, this monster. Okay, if we grab the monster guy here, we could put him, rah, he's between the front and the backs of the buildings. Okay, so we could put him in front of trees or houses or people or whatever, but now he's behind the houses but in front of that church building or whatever it is. Rah, 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 rah. Okay, I'm going to have too much fun. I'm going to leave him here. So there's our monster. Okay, if we wanted to do something else to the front of this building, like draw victims screaming or something here, if we draw it directly on our layer, again, it's destructive like our heart was. So I would want to create a new layer, which I wrote victim, okay? And I have my, oh, he has no head. He is a victim, isn't he? Okay, I'm gonna grab my paintbrush here and give him his noggin back. He's so upset he's lost his head. Oh, he's got a red head. So he's, oh no, he's very upset. Because he's on his own layer, if I or my art director or whoever says, that guy's lame, I can always poke him in the eye and turn him off. Okay, or delete him later. So let's say I have lots of victims. I could put them all on their own layers or individual layers. So look at all these guys. Oh no, the monster's coming. Ah! See, this is why my videos run over, because I have way too much fun. Rah! Oh no, boo. So these guys being on their own layers, later on I can decide, I don't like that, and I'm going to turn that off. Okay, I'm just going to keep my original victim, or you know what? No, he's sticking out like a sore thumb with his red head. I'll turn him off. So using layers allows us to work non-destructively, that we can change our mind on all these guys. Let's get rid of the monster. Why, I don't know. Get rid of the monster, and we're back to our original. And we can choose any one or multiple layers until we're happy. Now, we haven't saved this, and we'll talk how to flatten layers later on, and that's a little bit more complex. You guys want to go for another minute? I'll tell you how to like merge layers. Let's do that. Okay. Let's say that I have decided that this layer of victims is awesome, and I'm absolutely sure I want to keep this. So I'm going to label this one victims, multiple victims. I've decided that this guy with the red head's got to go, so I'm going to throw him away. If I wanted these victims to be a permanent part of this duplicated front layer, I have some options for sticking them together. So I can click this layer, shift click the one underneath, and when I right click, I can merge these layers. Okay, and when I merge those layers, now remember, this is going to be very destructive because now those victims are merged into this layer and I can't take them out. All right, at this point I could undo it and go back a couple steps, but I have merged them and stuck them together. Okay, I'm going to go do Control Z and undo that because it hurts my soul. But you can merge layers. Let's say I was working on a fence and I drew individual ivy or something. I drew some ivy on this one, and on another layer I drew some ivy over here and ivy over here, and I've got 4 layers of ivy, and I decide that I love it. I could combine all of those layers of ivy into one layer and then keep it on its own layer in case I decide I don't want it on the buildings. Does it make sense? I hope so. So we can merge layers. When we are done, we have all of our layers, including our victims and monsters and everything else. We can save this as a Photoshop document. And I have another video on saving things in image files. If we save it, just save as and name it. It will save a Photoshop document, a .psd Photoshop document. And what that does is it creates a document that remembers all of these layers. If you open it in Photoshop, it's going to open with all these layers. Now, I don't want to send this to a client with all these layers because they can mess it up. Okay, so if I want to flatten this, a Photoshop document is a fairly large file as well. So if I want to send this to somebody to preview it or to print it out or whatever, and I'm like, this is gorgeous, I'm done, I can flatten this whole stack. I can do that either here, or remember we have a menu up here called layers that I can do lots of the same things to. So in this one, I'm going to go down here to flatten image, and it's going to say, are you sure? It's also going to say, do you want to throw away the hidden ones? Remember, that was our backup one, and you decide if you do or don't. And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to throw away all my hidden layers, and it's going to smash them all down into one single layer, which then I can save as a JPEG, nice and small for sending to somebody for approval, or PNG or whatever I want. Okay, so if this is my concept art for my awesome monster movie, I might want to send this in for approval. And when they say, no, I want the monster to be blue, I have the Photoshop document. So later on, when I open my Photoshop document, it still has my layers, and I can make the changes to my oh so awesome monster. Why should I be blue? Okay, so there you go. Ran over a couple minutes, but I think it was worth it. I hope that explained layers pretty well, and I didn't scare anybody with my terrifying monster and poor victims. Don't worry, no stickmen were hurt in the making of this video, and I hope it was helpful. Please leave a comment if there's anything you'd like me to cover. And as usual, I appreciate your time and thank you for being here. Subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff, and I'll see you soon. Be well.